Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show, it's about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Riverdale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, Jughead and Archie and Betty are trying to come up with an idea to battle against Percival. How do you fight against someone who literally has the entire town within his thralls? Which I once again still think it's so interesting. So it doesn't seem like he has a limit to how many people he can control, and it seems pretty consecutive, that control. But it does seem like he still has blind spots. Because Fangs doesn't seem to be under his control, neither is Tabitha, Veronica. He's able to manipulate them from an outside perspective, but not to the extent he's able to control the rest of the town. I thought Fangs acting the way he did previous, like in the last episode, might have been Percival. It might have been, might not have been. The fact is that Fangs still himself, whereas other people who are in his control, under Percival's control, aren't. So that's why I'm thinking maybe at the end of the day, Fangs was just acting like himself just because of the circumstances that the ghoulies put them in. So maybe that's all there is to it. But they seem to be the only ones not affected under his thralls. Are, like I said, Archie, Betty, Jughead, Veronica, Tabitha. I'd assume Pop Tate too, because I guess he's very selective about who he controls, and he only really goes after those he really needs to. He actively kind of screwed everything up with the Serpent, so he doesn't really need to worry about them as a threat, because they're just kind of, their reputation and everything's kind of been whittled down. The fact is that Fang and Tony have too much to worry about right now. To worry about, getting baby Anthony back and everything, and the whole custody battle. So I guess that's kind of like, he's like, right, they're too preoccupied with that. But Jughead decides that they need a folk hero, someone to rally behind, and they build up the legend that is Archie. Archie's already borderline a hero, homegrown, son of Riverdale. His father being Fred, who was this good, beloved person. So it's like you're already there, and now they just have to push everything to kind of get him the folk hero treatment. So they do stuff to get him in the Guinness Book of Records. Obviously, it's a lot easier with his abilities. And obviously, Percival immediately finds out about, all right, Archie's swaying too much of the town his way. I need to nip this in the bud, and ends up trying to push Archie to kill himself. Luckily, Archie has his invulnerability, but also before Percival could take another shot, Archie was like, no, you had your shot and you missed, because he focused on his dad. Because the whole point for Jughead was that everyone needs to anchor themselves to something to the core of who they are. And if you do that, Percival can't mind control you. And Archie proved that this episode. Sadly, not everyone else has. And he still was able to get to Archie before Archie could focus on what he needed to ground himself, to anchor himself. Sadly, it didn't work out, because Betty didn't have time to properly prepare herself. Percival got what he needed, and bam, made her forget about everything. Because I was about to say, jumping around a little bit, the only people who know about his Palladium weakness are Archie, Betty, and Jughead. And then I thought, well, there's also TBK. So I was like, did Percival somehow get in contact with him? But it's like, no, he went through Betty, and she doesn't even remember. Because it's like, right, how would TBK know where to find the Palladium? Because it seems like that's the only bit that's left, is the chunk that Betty was safekeeping. So I thought it was kind of interesting how they did set it up that Archie was a little reluctant about the whole, because they Kelly showed up, and it's like, right, we're gonna do a boxing match. It's like, all you have to do is let him have the technical win, but you still come out on top as long as you as long as you're still standing at the end of it all. And Archie had this reluctance about it. It's like, right, having a bronze statue, not a bronze statue, but a statue made of me, plus he just didn't necessarily feel right about it, because he felt like, right, is this the right way to go about things? And I thought Archie would change his mind, but the fact is that Percival made K.O. Kelly walk into a I don't know what I'm calling him by, it's like a boxing, but Kelly walk into get hit by a car, which is like, I was curious like what he was going to do on that front, but, and the fact is that he challenged Archie to a boxing match. You're like, he knows what Archie's weak to, but I thought maybe in the end it'd be kind of, well, I mean, it is very, once again, I've never seen the Rocky, I'm saying once again, like I've said it before, I don't think I've ever seen a Rocky movie all the way through. Doesn't Rocky actually lose the movie, the first fight? Doesn't he actually lose it in the end? I think so. I thought it was going to be that, but I thought it was going to be the thing of like, despite everything, despite Percival winning, I thought in the end, I was like, it's too early in the season to do it, but I thought Archie would gain the like town back because of, regardless of him losing, he still has people inside because like, wow, this is Archie. He never gave up. He kept going. That's what people rally behind. I thought that was going to happen. It's like, nope, Archie lost, and it just swayed people more towards those who are already under his control. It just swayed them. Any teetering that had been caused, like from the swinging of the pendulum going from Percival to Archie, automatically swung back towards Percival. So it ended up, their plan was working. Sadly, now it's doubled down, and with that, what Archie already losing, like it took the wind out of their sails. So it's not like they can try this again. I think there is another angle to this whole situation, and I think that folk hero is going to end up being Tabitha, especially because Percival's kind of had it up to here with Tabitha, because he's trying to manipulate and do business with Veronica, which you'd think Veronica would want nothing to do with the guy that she knows literally nothing about. But I guess, once again, he picks and chooses when he decides to get in people's heads, and that's why I'm wondering, is there actually some, we see that there's limitations with everyone else's abilities, makes you wonder, are there limitations with his own? And maybe that's why he hasn't bothered. I mean, obviously, the biggest limitation is if you anchor yourself to your core of who you are, then he can't mind control you, but still. Maybe there's some other reason behind that. But he didn't go out, like he suggested business-wise, like he spoke to Veronica from one business person to another to sway her to kind of follow what he thought. And then he's trying to pit Veronica and Tabitha and Tony all against each other. Well, trying to pit Veronica as Tony puts it, they're two Davids going up against the Goliath that is her casino, because her casino started basically, she's serving alcohol, and it's like, alcohol at the casino is free, so why would people come to the White Worm? And then also Tabitha's business at Pops is getting cut into because they're serving diner food and milkshake shots. So at first you would think you would think Veronica would feel a certain way about it, but it's like, right, businesses need competition and stuff like that, so maybe Veronica didn't see too much of a thing in it, because she is trying to still keep her casino, have a foothold. She ended up being the one that ended up getting the sign, because the town can only have 2 signs, the new revamped Welcome to Riverdale sign, plus the sign promoting the town and promoting a business in the town, and they backed the casino. And I think the only reason why Percival did that is because, right, he believed that the casino had much more power and pull, and it would end up giving him the position and power and influence he needs to continue his reign and eventual destruction of Riverdale. Because I think immediately he's thinking like, oh, Pops is nothing. It's a little spot. It won't put up too much of a fight. But Tabitha and Tony work together. But the problem is they kind of, what they were doing was working, but it was going against the very core of the way they're trying to operate things. It's like, right, serving alcohol at Pops, that's not the thing. Plus everything that Tony's dealing with right now. It's like, right, as Fangs tried to put it, like, oh, a remake of Showgirls. Like, I wouldn't go that far, but I get where you're going. I think that's an extreme example to use for what Tony was doing, but still. It's like, right, we probably don't want to be doing that just because we're in the custody battle that we're in. So there's that whole situation. Plus, Veronica, just to manipulate her further, he puts her in a very position where he was trying to partner up with her, but like, oh, Reggie, I guess I shouldn't say. I guess you should have the right to know. And that Reggie took some of the slot machines. He's kind of doing his own thing. Because we, at the beginning, you know that everything he did was for his dad's sake, but now it is him carving out his own path. He's like, right, I'm just doing a little side hustle. She's like, yeah, but you're siphoning money from us to do this. She's like, yeah, you're barred from the casino right now. So whether or not she completely cut him off as part owner, at the very least, she's keeping him away for now. So basically, it's like, show up and see what happens. And so he's kind of getting wrapped up by the wise guys that he's hanging around currently. And it's like, yeah, that's going to potentially poison Reggie. But to be fair, he is still like, no, Veronica's my future. So I think there's still something there. I don't think he's completely wavered off his path. But also, like, Veronica doesn't know about his father's circumstances. And maybe when she eventually does, they can, like, come back together. Not unless Percival... I don't see him continuing to, at least for now, maybe once the Tabitha situation is dealt with, he'll eventually go back to kind of taking advantage of the rift that he helped. I don't know. Like, maybe he got inside of Reggie's head. Probably not, because Reggie doesn't seem like he's being controlled. But, once again, a lot of these characters are anchoring themselves, because Percival did overplay his hand. He tried to go, right, Veronica, we should firebomb the worm and Pops. And she's like, what? Are you stupid? I'm not going to do that. You got it twisted. You overplayed your hand. I am not my father. You thought you can play to those inclinations, but she knows who she is at her core, that she loves her father, but she will never become him. And he overestimated his means to pushing her, because she's true to her core. And I wonder if Reggie's kind of the same way. Maybe he's adamant about loving Veronica, never wanting to do anything to necessarily hurt her, but also being torn between that and wanting to make the best he can, like, make his dad's final time, a happy time, essentially. So, but Tony and Tabitha end up making a deal with Veronica, because it seems like Veronica reached out to her because what Percival said, it made her go like, you know what, I'm not going to handle things the way I've been, because I've been so focused on running things as a business, I am forgetting about the friendship that exists here. So Tabitha was able to convince her, and they were able to strike up a deal that's beneficial for all three businesses, that we're all looking out for each other under these circumstances. So now that makes Tabitha look like a threat. But it makes sense, because what has always been at the heart of Riverdale? It's Pops. So Tabitha and Pops, what do they represent? They represent the core of everything. Because very much like the Riverdale situation, what did the devil want? The devil came seeking Pop, because in the battle of good versus evil, it stands as the center of that. Once again, stuff from Riverdale we're kind of bringing in the forefront. So I think Tabitha might be the person they end up rallying behind, because she is currently, well, now that Tony's off the council, that's the only member of the council that, yes, they still have majority sway because he's got Frank and Alice under his spell, but not Tabitha. So that's why she is continuing to be the threat, and he does not like that one bit. So, and another interesting element to this episode, and I think is going to be potentially a blind side to Percival, is the whole Cheryl situation. So sadly, Britta is leaving, and like upon Cheryl trying to adopt her, Britta's parents are more open and willing to accept, their daughter for who she is. We'll see. Hopefully that does last. And obviously Cheryl's happy for her. To have, a parent's support at the end of the day is very important. They didn't support her before, but hopefully it isn't a situation of, we got you back, so we're not. Like, hopefully they're sincere in that, which is also sad, because now that place is a little less, it's just her and her Nana Rose again, so, sadly. So, but Cheryl starts like having nightmares about burning up and stuff, and it's like, oh, you're not going to get to me, Abigail, and it's like, okay. And then the moment she starts heating up more, and the fact that, because I was immediately going there the moment that guy burst into flames, and all that was left was like his legs and his feet, and there was ashes. I was like, did she do that? I was like, are we doing? And they're like, yep. Initially they make it sound like it's spontaneous human combustion, which are like, I forget that's a thing. Because immediately when I think of that, I think of like the whole and it's funny that it's where my mind immediately goes. It's the God, what's its face? Oh yeah, the South Park episode kind of related to that. That's what, I don't know why that's the first thing that immediately comes to my mind. I even love the fact is later on, well, when we end up finding out what Cheryl's whole thing is, which I think it is kind of neat knowing like, oh, the FBI has like a paranormal like investigative like branch. So obviously, Betty learns about pyrokinesis. I was like, oh, so she is a pyrokinet. Interesting. Especially when you think about like, right. It's like, it's funny how, and Betty even references it later on. It's like, right, your ancestor Abigail, who just in possession of your body, died because she was burned at the stake, and you having pyrokinetic abilities is ironic. But it's also like, right, you've always had this connection to fire. You've been burned down Thornhill, and then you like rebuilt it. Like you've always risen from the ashes like a phoenix. So she is able to control her powers by the end. All it took was like, right, because I thought what was going to happen is like, are they going to like try and make Archie be like the person like kind of like focus all your powers on me because I can't get hurt type of situation. I thought that's what was going to happen. But turns out that's not what they ended up going with. But it's just like, right, having her point her powers and, you know, and who other than like something to focus all her anger and stuff on will be your mother, which you feel kind of bad for Penelope, but also realize like, right, Penelope and Cheryl haven't always had the best relationship. It's always been super up and down. The highs have been high, but the lows have been super low. And it's just like, right, your most recent experience with your mother was the prison you were trapped into in that corner of your mind where she was basically a warden. So it's like, yeah, probably a little easier to spark that flame towards burning her picture in the wood and stuff after all that. But now, but like I said at the end, I really appreciate that at the end, what is she reading? Stephen King's Firestarter, which is interesting. Also interesting timing too, because makes you wonder, is that supposed to be like some subtle promotion? I don't remember what studio's making that, not off the top of my head. I don't think that's a Warner Brothers thing. I was like, is it a Sony thing? I don't remember. But they're making a remake of that. So I'm very interested to know if Percival found, because who knows when he got to Betty, because he might have gotten to Betty after she found out about Cheryl, or it might have been before she found out about Cheryl's condition. It probably might have been after, so it might, but he focused mainly on Archie. That's all he cared about asking about. Tell me everything about Archie, but maybe, he said everything, so we don't know if that includes everything about Jughead, whether that includes everything about Cheryl, but she might be his blind side. But we are filling out this superhero roster a little bit with everything going on, so who else in town is going to get abilities? Will Veronica get one? Will Tabitha get one? I'm leaning towards, I think Tabitha's going to get one. Or maybe it's going to be like Tabitha's going to be the one that doesn't have power but ends up being the focal point of the good versus evil that is happening here in town. Once again, very much like Riverdale. I mean, it is really interesting that the core main people who are involved in a lot of Riverdale stuff are the people that are kind of outside of Percival's control to some, like our main cast, who's kind of been our main cast, and they end up being kind of at the forefront of most of those stories. Because obviously, like Alice and Frank, like they play like supporting roles in those stories, but like the main cast of those Riverdale stories seem to be the ones that are at the forefront of these stories too. Obviously, once again, they were main characters anyway. They're the main characters / main cast anyway, but still. So, like I said, will Tony get powers? Will Fangs get powers? Will, like I said, Tabitha or... We'll have to wait and see, because it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm excited to see where the next episode ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.